and research and scholarship. And the thing to remember with many of our graduate students, or many of our undergraduate students, is some of them have never been out of Texas. Some of them don't venture very far. So the fact that they're leaving their comfort zone is huge for them. And that's one of the most important parts of study abroad. I remember going to study abroad when I was in undergrad. It was like the greatest thing in the world. So if you're interested, I would think, in creating study abroad programs, first off, it takes a long time to organize. We've decided to work with a really fantastic vendor, which takes a lot of pressure off of us, so that we know that logistics on the ground are taken care of before we even hit the ground. And we can focus on recruitment, which it really does take a good 6 months of recruitment. Because the other thing about our students is a lot of them just don't have a lot of money to go. And so it's a big commitment on their part to raise the money, get it from their families, work extra shifts, crowdsource funding, get all the scholarships in place to venture for them on the study abroad program. And so it takes quite a bit of recruitment just to get, our program is probably going to have about 36 people, and it takes quite a bit to get there. Other things, I'll leave it open to questions.
It does take them out of their element. I had a couple of students over when I was doing my sabbatical, and I asked them what was their biggest surprise, and we're in this little medieval town that's like 1,100 years old. It's all one-way streets and cobblestone, wonderful. And they said, we keep getting lost. All the streets have the same name. And I think for a minute, I go, well, wait a minute. Strasse means street. I mean, and everything's going to be something, the Ted Strasse, the Nancy Strasse, et cetera. And they go, we know that. I said, well, what's the deal here? They said, all the signs are the same. I said, what do you mean? They said, the signs all say Einbahn. Now, if you see a big red sign with something in the middle that you can't understand, what is that? Oh, you guys pass, especially the ones in the front. It's a stop sign. Einbahn is one way in German. And they saw all the signs that were saying one way because they were one-way streets. And they thought those were the street signs. It gets them out of their element into a different world. Absolutely.
And the things and you were saying Latvia, the thing about picking a location to do study abroad, you may be like, I was like, I want to go to Iceland, this will be the greatest thing in the world. And for them, London's a big deal. Just to go to London, I mean, okay, so we've been to London a bunch of times, it's like, old hat. To them, it's a big deal. And it's also very approachable, and that it feels slightly familiar to them.
Well, and it's English.
And it's English.
It's one of the big.
And they get there and they realize that they don't know what's going on.
But in Austria, the school children now start learning English in kindergarten. So, there you go. Well, we should leave it open to any questions. Mary Beth put my little sheets in the back.
And if we run out of those, I'll scan it and have it available to send out.
The opportunities are there to expand your horizons. Question in the back.
A Fulbright question.
A Fulbright question, love it.
I have a Fulbright question.
Yes.
Fulbright scholar. So you said you took your wife along.
Actually, the Fulbright Commission helps fund my wife. She was
That's what I was
worth
wondering.
145 euros a month
So
for the package that I
a
had.
dinner.
And what?
A dinner.
A dinner.
145 euros a month.
Oh,
A
yeah,
dinner.
yeah. Oh, sure, absolutely, yeah.
So, are-
And
can
children, they will
also
support
go along?
children as well.
And that varies by country.
It varies by country. Some of the schools will provide housing for you. I applied to one for Nottingham. I'm told there's no ham in Nottingham, but ended up as an alternate. And Nottingham provides housing for you in addition to. So, yeah, they do support the families. They have the tie-ins to the American schools, or the same thing as the diplomats and all would have.
Thank you.
Yeah, question.
So I have a Fulbright question as well. So say we're not going to go up this year, but maybe try to apply next year or the year after. How worthwhile would it be looking at the database? How much?
Okay.
How much kind of
The database is pretty consistent.
pretty consistent? Okay.
Okay, because for example, the Hall chair at the University of Vienna is always a Hall chair. Okay, But when you say go up this year versus next year, one of the things that's problematic on the Fulbright, the deadline is August 3rd. What will happen is they'll go through a vetting process at the State Department, and then they'll take it through the peer review committee, and then it goes to the Fulbright office in the country that you want, and then they extend that out to the schools. And so you will not know until March or April of next year. Now, University of North Texas has kind of a different teaching schedule than the Fort Shore where I was teaching. The first day of classes for me was March 2nd, because their fall term bleeds into January and February. I taught my class and went on 2-week spring break. I love it. You gotta love the Europeans. I gave my final exam on the 4th of July, which for some reason they didn't celebrate last year. Okay. So what happens though is that if you apply this year in 2016, you won't find out until 2017. And then depending where you're going, if you're gonna do spring and summer, you'd be there in 2018. So it takes some planning ahead. So don't go, oh, I'm gonna apply and then as soon as I get it, I rush out and do it. There will be a kind of an extension from a timing standpoint. And I have that within the paper as well, but it does take a couple years. And the problem for a lot of academics, what are you gonna be doing 3 years from now? No idea. I saw someone waving in the back with a question for Nancy.
No, my question's also about the Fulbright.
Oh, I love it.
Is
They love-
everybody here because of the Fulbright?
You guys can leave.
Yeah.
You guys can leave. Yes.
I'd like to do a Fulbright in South Africa, but I don't have any contacts there. And I was thinking about applying for an IGRO grant from UNC in order to go to South Africa for a couple of months to establish contacts that I would then use to apply for a Fulbright. Is that something that you would recommend?
Well, iGrow is linked to a specific research project. It's not just a travel fund.
With a collaboration, right? Collaboration. Right.
Right, but it's not just a travel fund to visit a university and make new research connections. It's with an intended research outcome, and it's
Right.
linked to demonstrating that there will be external funding that supports the continuation of the project as well as publications.
Okay, so that would not be a good plan, then, is what you're saying.
Which category are you looking
Well,
at?
using the iGrow as a means to get to the Fulbright?
Yes, so using the iGrow as a way of kind of securing collaborations that could eventually lead to the external funding source of Fulbright. Although,
Which
depending-
category are you looking at
I don't
within?
have it in front of me, so I can't.
Okay, are you a junior faculty?
Yes.
Okay, you could make a case within iGrow, but you would still need to demonstrate a specific research project, and then you could demonstrate Fulbright as one of the sources
Right.
for external funding, but there would be an expectation that there would be other types of external sponsors identified for the continuation of the research project.
Other than Fulbright.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, the strategy I would take, you say, I don't know anybody in South Africa. That's your fault. I would go out and find somebody. And I'd look at the South African universities and find something that is tied closely to what I do. And I would send out messages to, if there are authors that are writing, there are ways to start developing these relationships. And for a Fulbright, having the relationship is very helpful, okay? And then we had an individual in art. His strategy was kind of interesting. He wanted to go out to, I don't remember if it was Istanbul or Constantinople. Sorry. He's in sculpture. James was in sculpture. And the strategy that we went with was that he put in for a specialist for Fulbright, which is up to 6 weeks, okay? And he had something very specific, and then he contacted a university there and said, hey, I'm now a specialist in this, which puts you on a list of any university. You can look at that and say, whatever area you're in, here's my interest. And it just happened to tie in, so they had him out, because it didn't cost them anything. And he had him out for 6 weeks, and now he's developed that relationship. Okay, and kind of happy to have his way paid to Istanbul. I know. It's a good song, though. So part of it is I guess, develop those relationships, but they aren't just going to fall into your lap. I'm being a little catty on that, right? You knock on a couple doors. When I did the speaking at the other schools, I literally put together 5 presentations, little abstracts of 5 presentations, sent it out throughout schools in Europe that I wanted to go to and said, hey, I'm gonna be a Fulbright and I'm gonna be here during this time period. Would you be interested in having me present at any of these things? And you know, MIT in Spain gobbled it right up. There's the University of Athens is still wondering who the hell Ted Ferris is. So sometimes it hits and sometimes it doesn't. But you know, I'm pushy enough just to contact these guys and say, hey, I'm interested in maybe doing something with you and build that relationship.
There's also a scholars database on the website that will give you information on who's been in South Africa and contact information for them. So you can contact them and say, do you know someone in my area?
Yep.
Other questions? What time do we have?
Probably done.
Probably done. All right.
I think we will go ahead and end there, but we have some time left at the end for questions and answers, but I think we'll stop because